Welcome to Deeper Living. Today we're talking with Tamera Alexander, author of the Fountain Creek Chronicles, so stay tuned.
From coast to coast across North America, this is Deeper Living, bringing the inspirational marketplace to your front door. We exist to bring you the latest and greatest from authors, artists, and artisans around the world. You're going to love this.
Hi, and welcome to Deeper Living. I'm your host, Rebecca Seitz, and today we're speaking with Tamera Alexander, author of the Fountain Creek Chronicles, Rekindled, Revealed, and Remembered. Tamera, tell us where you got the idea for a man who was burned.
You know, I originally got the idea for Rekindled in a dream. I woke up and I could still see in my mind this picture of a man coming home. He was on horseback. I knew historical, which I'd always loved historicals anyway. He passes through town, can't find his family, can't find his wife, comes upon a grave scene where there's a funeral underway, and he waits until everyone has left, leans down to the cross, reads the name on the cross, and the name on that grave marker was his name. And that's the seed of and I quickly got up and wrote it down, and then the rest of the story before I could forget, and the rest of the story grew, and the series grew from that one scene and then those characters and their lives.
Now, did you have to do, I know in the book that I was just writing there was a burn scene, and
Yes.
so I had to call burn wards and find out what happened when people got burned. Did you do all that?
You know, something different about writing a historical was actually I had to go back to history books and back to even the pre-Civil War, because well, this was post-Civil War, 1867, so they learned a lot during that time, but obviously the burn units and stuff today, we know a lot more about it than we did then. So I had to go back to a lot of history books and how burns were treated back then, and a lot of that stuff is great because it's online now. Even the original books that they had back then are photographed with the Adobe. So I was actually able to go back to medical books that students used at the University of Boston at that time, medical students, and how they would treat burns, which was obviously very differently than we would do it today, and things even that they did back then were not necessarily conducive toward healing. But yeah, so I did a lot of
a good idea at the
Seemed
time.
like at the time, bless their heart. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to give away anything, but we do learn at the beginning of the story.
Yes.
Our main character is involved in an explosion of is it a moonshine?
Yes, I never say exactly, but that was it.
Moonshine that
Something
just blew
explosive. Yeah.
And he's
but
rescued.
Yes, exactly, and he is by a very unlikely couple, Isaiah and Abby, and they nurse him back to health and help him to get back where he is able to then make his journey home, not just the physical journey but the emotional journey, and coming back obviously a very changed man, both inwardly and outwardly.
Now, throughout this book, when I was reading it, you would mention different stores in downtown and different little towns along the way in Colorado. Are those real, or did you make those up?
A lot of those are real to that area. Colorado City, which is Colorado Springs, which these books, the whole series is placed right at the foot of Pikes Peak, within the shadow of Pikes Peak. But a lot of the stores, the mercantiles, the haberdashery, the men's clothing store, all those were taken from historical, the Colorado City at that time. I made up a town simply because, though, there is a brothel in this book, and there were not any brothels within Colorado City until 1890. There were in some of the surrounding communities, but they were not in that time. So, and after speaking with some town historians, they were rather insistent that because their great-great-grandfather had been the preacher or whatever. So but honestly, to be mindful of that, you want to be historically accurate as you can. So I moved it to a fictional town and basically recreated everything within that era. But then, obviously there were brothels back then, but just not in that one location.
And in the story we learn how it can really affect a woman's life if she's associated with those brothels, even if she didn't work in them, even if she associated with the women and trying to share Jesus with them or just befriend them.
You paid a huge price.
You really did. Your reputation was all you had.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially as a single woman. We don't want to give too much away.
That's right. Yeah, that's
single woman trying to make it.
Trying to make it on her own and without her husband. So yeah.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to give too much away. The book is a great read. Now, after Rekindled is Revealed, and do we need to have read Rekindled before we read Revealed?
I wrote them to stand alone, but in talking to readers since then, and I truly do agree, it's a richer read if you read them in order. But I had a person pick up, Revealed the other day, and they read that without knowing that there was, Rekindled, the first one, and they said it was kind of fun then, even though they knew the basic outcome then, because you know kind of how the story is going to end there. It was neat, they said, to go back and kind of learn how to. But I always recommend, if you can, to read them in order for the richest reading.
Rekindled, and then Revealed, and then Remembered.
And Remembered was just released in June. Right.
Just released in June. And are there going to be any more Fountain Creek Chronicles? Or are we done now?
Right now we're looking. This was the end, but a lot of readers have written asking for another one. So who knows? Maybe down the line I could write Sadie's story or Abby and Isaiah.
And you do have some more coming, just maybe not Fountain Creek.
There's a Colorado series that I'm writing right now.
Good. Hang on to that. I want you to tell us about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us here at Deeper Living. Welcome back to Deeper Living, where we're speaking with novelist Tamera Alexander about the Fountain Creek Chronicles, Rekindled, Revealed, and Remembered. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit with you, Tamera, about the faith element in these books, because a lot of the books that I read today are written by Christians, but the faith element is hidden a little bit. In these, your characters are very real in their struggle with God. Tell us how you worked that into the story.
One thing, when I read a book, I love to read a book that is not only entertaining, but that will leave me with something of an eternal value. And in Rekindled, the spiritual thread that's woven into that one is a personal one for me, having been married for 23 years.
Congratulations.
Oh,
That's amazing. I meant you're 3 and you're at 23.
It's great. It's great. But there are some marriage is a lot of hard work. There was one thing I was telling someone. My parents, when I got married, and I'll get to the spiritual thread.
Sure.
I really will weave it back. When I first got married, I had never seen my parents really have a crossword at all, ever. And so when I got married, it's like, well, this is hard. This is
fighting.
This is a little different. But in Rekindled, it's basically about a husband and a wife learning to love each other, laying aside all the expectations that we come with towards each other and within the relationships. And it's about a man learning to love his wife the way God intended her to be loved, and then a woman loving her husband in that same way and accepting him for who he is, and not necessarily for who she wants him to be. Because women, we tend to come with a lot of expectations, where guys' expectation list is probably a little shorter than
Yeah.
ours, a little briefer.
And a little more realistic, I
yeah,
think.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
I know when I was reading your book, I thought a lot about my own marriage because I'm very confrontational and my husband's very non-confrontational. He's
Yes.
quiet, just like the guy in the book.
Yes.
And so, you know,
Tends to avoid.
He tends to avoid at all
Yeah,
costs.
yeah.
And so when I was reading the book, I thought, wow, we're a lot like these two characters. You
Yeah.
know, she wants to talk and wants to talk, and he's walking away. He has to. Of course, if my husband left me on Christmas morning with a note in the cabin,
wouldn't be a good thing, would it?
I'd grab a
Wouldn't
horse
be
and go after him.
It's snowing really, really hard.
That's true.
So.
It's snowing. Let him be the cold one.
That's right. That's right.
Now, how long? Oh, you were going to tell us about the spiritual element of the books.
Yes, and so Revealed is it's more of a personal story to me about words once spoken can change a life forever, and we'll talk about that I think in a minute about how I came to write because that really one statement changed my life as far as writing.
Okay, you have
so
to
it
tell
was really
us.
so
You
it's
have to tell us.
but so Revealed is a lot. It's about the Pharisee in the center type of a parable, someone who does everything right, who is very religious, and who yet is really farther away from God than the prostitute, because this is Annabelle and Matthew's story, two secondary characters that we meet in Rekindled. And then Remembered spiritual thread is really about God as a restorer of our discarded dreams.
Thank goodness.
And I know it. So, but the spiritual thread of all of these is hope, and really comes from the Scripture. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is God's love for us, and He's got a plan, even though things don't seem. Oftentimes they seem so discombobulated, and you look at your life and think, what is going on? But God has a plan. He's got a master plan, and He weaves everything together.
Now, tell us, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, tell us how He wove writing into your life story.
Well, I loved to write when I was younger, loved it, and then someone very influential in my life around age 13 or 14 read something I'd written, and I'm sure it was horrible. I'm sure it was like a really bad poem about a guy or something. It was really bad. But they read it and they said, you will make a fool of yourself if you ever let anybody read anything you've written.
No.
Well, and due to some sexual abuse issues in my past, and I always clarify that was not anything, it was not a family member at all. It was someone outside of the family that was my perpetrator. I wasn't able to filter. That. There was a filter there that I took that as a blanket statement. So I put writing away. When it came time for college, I thought about journalism and writing for about 3 minutes. And thought, simple because you don't want to knowingly make a fool of yourself. So I went into business, and business came easily, and I loved it. So I went into marketing and management and did that. But then my mother-in-law, back in 1995, gave me a book, she handed me a book. She said, I think you'll just love this book. Frankly, I looked at the cover. It was kind of a prairie-ish little cover.
Yeah.
I think it might have had a chicken.
That's all
I'm
we
not
used
sure.
to have in the
That's
Christian
all we used
fiction
to
world.
have 10
prairie
years
fiction.
ago. Isn't that true? And I looked at it and thought, thank you so much. Had no intention of reading it, but
You're
how
so
you go,
sweet.
You're
That's
so
a great
sweet. Bless your heart. Thank you so much. Shelf it. And I did. And 2 months later, she asked. She said, "Have you read that?" And I said, I haven't, but thank you so much. I will read it. Very suddenly, we got a call one day, and Claudette died of a brain aneurysm very, very suddenly in 1995, just 2 or 3 months after that. And wouldn't you know it, about 6 months following her death, I ran across that book. And of course, I sat down then and read it immediately and just wept, because that simple, what we term a simple little prairie story, showed me God's love and the depth of His love in a way that I just hadn't gotten from a lot of the self-help books that I'd been reading. And that book was Love Comes Softly.
Oh,
by Janetto. Yes, so it's a staple in Christian fiction these days. So at that point, I went on a rampage and read everything Christian fiction that I could find, which again was not nearly as much then as it is now in the Christian market. And then, coming back from a road trip one night, my husband and I were in the car, and I finished reading a book and flipped off the light and tossed the book in the back seat so I could read, or I could write one of those. I could write one of those. And he said, well, why don't you? So from there, my writing journey started, and I started to write. And my first one is still in the drawer where it should be. My first novel is
Everybody's
still in the drawer
first novel should go in the drawer.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that is an amazing story. I love that story.
God brought it back around.
Oh, He does that.
At just the right
time. He does that for all of us.
Yeah, doesn't He?
We're talking today with Tamera Alexander, author of the Fountain Creek Chronicles, Rekindled, Remembered, and Revealed. Stay with us. Welcome back to Deeper Living, where we're speaking with novelist Tamera Alexander about her Fountain Creek Chronicles. Now, Tamera, you were telling us a fabulous story of how God intervened in your life and how you became an author, but going from the person who told you never to show your words to the public or you would be embarrassed to 3 books published, that's a huge ordeal. How did you get to the part where you got published?
Well, after that, when my husband kind of gave me that challenge, and we've always been very, very competitive in a healthy way, but he's wonderful to push me to do what I don't think I can do. I wrote a book and sent it into Bethany House. And waited and waited. You know, I mean, literally, I thought, well, you know, within a week they'll be calling me.
They'll be so excited to acquire me.
Oh, of course. I mean, knocking on my door. About 13 months later, I got
long week.
Yeah, long week, a very long week, and a lot of learning, a lot of patience in God's waiting room. They did call and they said, you know what, there are certain elements about this book that we really love. It made it to the final review board, but then we've decided to pass on it. But you know, at that point, that voice came back. See, I told you,
you can't do
make
this.
a fool of yourself. But God, through His wonderful love, had grown me to a point where I thought, you know, I'm just going to rebuke that.
Good for you.
In the name of Christ, I'm just rebuking that voice, and I'm going to listen. I thought, you know, just on a whim, I thought, hey, I'll write a novel, and it got to the final review board. I thought, what if I really sat down and tried to learn and tried to teach myself how to do this. So I got all the help, you know, the writer's books and the writer's self-help books and all that, and all that plot and everything and all that kind of stuff. And then I wrote another one. But another wonderful thing that happened to me during that time as I was writing, and this was in 2001, is I was on the internet one night and I was writing all by myself and just typed in writers conference, because I'd heard about writers conferences throughout the country but had never been to one. And I came across American Christian Fiction Writers. Actually it was American Christian Romance Writers at the time, but it's ACFW now. And they were having a conference in Kansas City in 2001. I signed up to be a member. I was member 127, and now we're well over 1,500 members. God has just blessed us with amazing growth. So I walked into this, you know, to the hotel. My husband was like, "You don't know anybody there," and I said, "I really feel this is a door that's that God's opened for me." Went to it, walked in, and it was like walking in and meeting family. It was like family.
Isn't it great when you walk into a room of Christian fiction writers? You know, you're all schizophrenic and you have characters in your head, and that's okay.
And talk to people. Yes, but you have so much alike and so much in common. So it was wonderful. So I made several contacts within ACFW and actually got my writing critique partner, which I hope we're for life. She says we are, and I hope we are. But Deborah Rainey, she's also a wonderful Christian author.
Very good author.
But she and I create each other's books now before we send them in, and to have that writing partnership, which I would have never gotten that without ACFW. So if there's any aspiring writers out there that are looking for a group to plug into, not only for the fellowship and the encouragement, but we're an organization that really is devoted to honing and helping writers, specifically for the CBA, the Christian Booksellers Association, for that market. If you're targeting that, ACFW is just a remarkable group, and we've got our annual conference coming up in September. You can find all about it at AmericanChristianFictionWriters.com.
AmericanChristianFictionWriters.com. And the conference is every third weekend in September every year, right?
It is. Yep, it is, and it's going to be in Dallas this year.
And you can find out on the website about it. Wonderful.
Yep, everything is there, all the information. And one thing that makes us a different group is the email loop, because I've been to some of the other writers' conferences now in the last 5 years, and they're wonderful. They lack that family feel. There's something, but it's simply because we are an email loop group. So if you've got a question, a burning question on your work in progress right now that you need, all you do is just go on there, and then multi-published authors answer, and of course that answer goes to the 1,500. So it's really a learning. It's a learning loop, and it's a group of writers that are dedicated to excellence in fiction and wanting to push it to the next level and take it to that next level. So
now I want you to touch on something we were talking about over the break, and that is that some lovely young lady mentioned that you were a little older,
Oh, yeah.
getting involved in this industry.
She did. She's just so precious.
Bless her heart.
No, and she really is adorable. So if she's watching this, you are precious. But it was really funny. She just mentioned at the ICRS show, the International Christian Retailers show last year, and she had not met me yet, and she just said, she said you're a little bit older to be starting a new career in writing, and I thought, for a minute, I thought, I didn't realize I was that much older, but okay, thanks.
Thanks for pointing it out.
So one thing I always share with women when I speak is, it's never too late. I'm 45. Right. I'm not dead.
Right.
It's never too late. If you've got that dream, if you've got something you've always been wanting to do, and you never thought you could, or you didn't think maybe you lacked, whatever it was. God is a restorer of those discarded dreams, and He can bring that back in such an amazing and wonderful way if you'll just be available to Him.
And it can be even better than what you originally dreamt.
Well, it is, because all of the stuff you've learned in that process, my marketing and management, is that not
it's
coming?
Helpful.
Huge. Yeah.
Stay tuned here with Deeper Living, where Tamera Alexander tells you about the woman that she's looking for right now.
Every good and perfect gift comes down from heaven above. Every good and perfect gift from above. Every good and perfect gift comes down from heaven above. Every good and perfect gift from above. From the Father of lights. From the Father of lights.
Welcome back to Deeper Living, where we're speaking with novelist Tamera Alexander about the Fountain Creek Chronicles. Before the break, Tamera, I told everybody that you were looking for a specific woman. Tell us who you're looking for.
It's a woman who is very influential in my life. Her name is Deborah Ackey, and at least it used to be. She was Miss Deborah Ackey then, so she very well could have gotten married. She was my teacher in the 7th grade, and she just helped me so much, because I shared all of those dark, horrible poems of death and boys and all that kind of stuff with her, and she was just such a wonderful influence in my life. Honestly, at a time when I really needed it during that early high school. It's a hard time. So I called Idlewood Elementary School, where back in the, what would that be, the 70, 71, 72, when I was there, and no one had any record of where she had gone or what had happened. And so I dedicated my second book, Revealed, to her, and I'm hoping, kind of sending it out like a message in a bottle, hoping that it will reach her. Especially, and teachers are such unsung heroes.
Yes, they are.
The many children's lives that she touched, and I just wanted to let her know that what she did back then just meant so much.
Now, if she's out there, how can she get in touch with you?
Oh, I would love her. Yeah, the website. Yeah, my email is on the website, which is www.tameraalexander.com. Tamera.
You have to let us know if she.
So I will. I will. Oh, I'd love to talk with her.
We'll have you both back, and we'll have our teacher here, and she can tell us
great.
Wonderful 7th grade stories of Tamera.
They may not be great, but that'd be wonderful. Yeah. telling. I don't know.
Now, tell us what's coming after the Fountain Creek Chronicles.
I'm working right now on From a Distance, which will be out in the spring of 2008, and it's the first book in the Timber Ridge Reflections series, which is another Colorado series. We go forward a little bit in history, so it's 1875 now, just shortly before Colorado became a state, so it's still the territory. And we're talking, this series deals with women who were firsts in their field. So this one, Elizabeth Westbrook is the first photographer, the first woman photographer to photograph Mesa Verde and the Maroon Bells, which is around that current day Aspen and Snowmass area. So, and then she meets, she's a daughter of the North, and she meets the son of the South, a former
fun.
Civil War sharpshooter. So yeah, so they've got a lot of
Civil War sharpshooter.
They had sharpshooters in the Civil War to take out the officers first.
Really?
In battle, yeah, because they were the ones to give the the following commands and the orders. So they would take those
idea.
on both sides. Actually, the Union and the Confederate had sharpshooters. I didn't realize that either until about a year and a half ago. I was reading a book and I thought, then this idea just started coming for a story.
You learn so much when you read historicals because, I mean, I don't love reading history books, but when you're reading historicals and being entertained and your authors have done their homework like you do, you learn all about history almost as a side note. You're being entertained, you're enjoying a story, and then I came away from it thinking there were brothels and there were general stores and this is what happened to a woman.
So many people ask where the ideas come from, and so much of it does come from history books, because I read a ton of history books because you want to be authentic to the area. For example, if there's a telegraph, but you can't use a telegraph if it wasn't in that area. So, but I love I love writing historicals, and I'm just very thankful that God gave me an opportunity to do that.
You've always been a fan of history?
Always. I've loved history.
I was going to be friends with you, but I'm sorry.
It's not going to work out now.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We've been speaking with novelist Tamera Alexander today about the Fountain Creek Chronicles. Thanks for joining us on Deeper Living. We'll see you next time.